Would the children please come forward? Do we have children? We don't have children today. They're all in the Sunday school. Well, I would give you the sermon I gave at 8. So good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry you don't get to see the great plan I had for the blow pops this morning. You are missing out. Well, the gospel this morning is a beautiful prayer offered by Jesus. And it's a prayer that is not just for the disciples who were there with him, but it's a prayer that extends through the ages to us today, and to all those who will come after us. Because Jesus said he was not praying just on behalf of those who are with him, but on those who would believe in Jesus through the words of those who knew him. And if we give ourselves time to think about it, we are gathered here this morning because of work that others did. Because the apostles first spread the news of Jesus. And others came to believe. And then they told other people, and they passed it down to children and children's children until 1,000+ years, nearly 2,000 years later, here we are today, gathering on a Sunday morning, because there was news too good to be kept secret. News that must be shared. A message, a prayer that we would all be one. Now, what does that mean, to be one? A lot of times we think that if we're one with someone, that we agree on everything, that we are exactly alike, that we're all a homogeneous group with no distinction being made from one to another. But that's not what oneness is. The oneness as expressed in the gospel is a oneness that is known by the measure of love that we have. The love of God that dwells in us, just as the love of God dwelled in Jesus. We are reminded that through that love, we are all one. All those who suffer, we are one with them. All those who are oppressed, we are one with them. All those who face injustice, we are one with them. We are all united because God loves each and every one of us. And so we remember, as that tornado tore through Dayton not even a week ago, we are one with the people of Dayton that have lost so much. In all of their suffering, we are one with them. And we should do whatever we can to alleviate their suffering. We heard news of the mass shooting in Virginia Beach just a couple days ago, which is becoming just another statistic that, of course, there was another mass shooting, because why wouldn't there be? But we are one with them in their suffering, as their community is racked by grief and loss, a tragic act of violence. Yesterday was the first day of Pride Month. We remember that we are one with our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community. some of us. Because depending on where we are, if we're more liberal or more conservative, we may not fully agree with the LGBTQ lifestyle. It doesn't matter. It simply doesn't matter. Because there are people in that community who are suffering. People who are afraid to be who they were created to be. People who are afraid to let their own family members know what was in their heart of hearts because they might be just another teenager thrown out on the streets because their parents wouldn't accept them. They lived in fear that if their friends knew what they thought, who they were attracted to, if their friends found out, they would be ostracized. They'd have no social support whatsoever. People who live in fear that if their employer finds out that they are attracted to the wrong gender, they might be fired. Think about that. We live in a world where a woman can be sexually harassed in the office, and the offender will stay there in the company. But if that same person was attracted to a man, that's grounds for being fired immediately. That's the world we live in. That's the fear that some of these people live with every single day. The fear that they might have some medical emergency, but they have a doctor or physician who is more conservative in their viewpoints and decides that they don't want to treat them for what they need to be treated, so they don't have access to beneficial health care. Couples that have children, one parent is denied the right to be with a child that's suffering because a place won't recognize a same-gender marriage. So you're not technically that child's parent. So you don't get to be with this child in a secure location in the hospital. We are with those people in their suffering. We are with the people of the African American community who regularly see unarmed members of our communities being shot and killed by police officers with little to no justice being done. We are with those communities in their suffering. Because at the end of the day, all those things that we have set in place to separate us from other people mean nothing compared to what unites us. It means absolutely nothing compared to the love of God that exists for you and for me and for every single person outside the four walls of this building. For every single person who will never walk through these doors, or the doors of any church or any religious institution. We are one with them in their suffering. We are one with members of the Jewish community who are seeing a rise in anti-Semitism again. As there was a KKK rally in Dayton just a couple weeks ago. We are one with our Jewish brothers and sisters in their suffering. We've heard of all the horrible things that have been done to our Muslim brothers and sisters. The shooting at Christ Church, the mosque in Christ Church a month or so ago, all the Islamophobia that exists in our world today. We are one with them in their their suffering. We are even one with Sikhs who have nothing to do with the Nation of Islam. But yet, part of their religion has them wearing a turban. And some people see a turban and think that person's a Muslim and they are targeted. There have been Sikhs who have been beaten and some even murdered simply because they wore a headdress that someone thought meant something completely different. We are one with those communities in their suffering. Because God created them too. Because God loves them too. And that love means so much more than anything we could ever think of. That would be a reason to view it as us and them. That love that exists for each and every one of God's children is impossible to overcome. You and I could try for years and decades and century and millennia. We would never be able to overcome God's love. That's how we are one. That's the prayer that Jesus offers for us today. To remember that we were made to be one people. Not to condone other people's activities. Not to engage in other people's activities. Not to merely accept other people's activities, but to recognize that they are loved beyond measure, just as we are loved. So the prayer that Jesus offered nearly 2,000 years ago, I offer for you today. May you know that you are loved by God. May you know that God's love dwells in you. And may every single person you meet know the love of God that is in your heart. May they see it in your words and in your actions. May they see it when you sit with them in their suffering, even if you don't have answers. May they see it by the way you advocate for justice for every single person, regardless of whether you agree with their actions or not. May they see the love of God in you. May you live your life in such a way that people take notice that there is a spark of the divine in your heart. A spark that cannot be kept hidden. A love that overflows any container